Good morning, everyone. This is Ermax, and today we have the chance to host the famous GloriousEggroll. Yeah, I'm saying famous because there is a top five in my list, dude. There is a top five in my list, and you're one of them, dude. So I don't think we need to present you again, but I'm gonna let you, present you real quick, and we're gonna jump into like the question about who you are and what you're actually doing for the Linux community in general, all your project.
Sure. Okay. Well, I mean, most people know me by EGGY. That's just a nickname that stuck with me for many, many years, based off of conventions. I went in as GloriousEggroll. That's been my game tag for a long time, and it's long in the tooth. So people just started calling me EGGY. So that's been a nickname for forever. Besides that, maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, I started working for for Red Hat, and that's kind of where things really took off. But before that, I used Arch for another 5 or 6 years, and that's kind of where the base of my work started. I've been on the scene for a really long time. Everybody knows, well, most people know me from GE Proton, and now Nobara, and now my upcoming project, which we're going to talk about, which is UMU. And I'm excited to talk about that because I've been talking about GE Proton and Nobara for the last couple of years, and I'm like, something new, exciting. Here we go.
Yes, it's gonna be exciting for you, but also exciting, I think, for all the gamers out there, right?
Yeah. Oh, we've already had awesome results on it. Like me and Strider from Lutris and Linguin from Heroic. So basically, long story short, went to Ubuntu Summit in 2023.
Okay.
Met the couple of guys from Heroic, and I also met what's his name? I can't remember his name for the life of me. He works for Valve. I met him. I met I already knew Strider.
Okay.
So that was our that was kind of like our gaming group. So we had at least Heroic guys there. We had our Lutris guys there. And we had somebody from Valve there.
Is that Pierre-Loup from Valve?
No, not Pierre.
Okay.
It's gonna bug me that I can't think of his name right now.
Man, okay, that's fine.
But I don't want to waste time because we don't have too much. But anyway, so we got to talking, and we were talking about pressure vessel. So
can you explain?
Who don't know
exactly? Yeah, can you explain for people who don't know what?
Yeah, for those who don't know what pressure vessel is, it's basically a containerized environment. It literally runs a Docker image or Docker container.
Okay.
Pressure Vessel has been it's a modified version of Bubble Wrap, which is another container software, but it's had basically like modifications done by Valve so that certain things can pass through to allow gaming within the container.
Okay.
So when you launch a game with Proton, what Steam does is it actually launches Pressure Vessel. Then Pressure Vessel runs the container. It loads Proton and your game inside the container. So it runs Proton inside the container, and then Proton will run your game. So all of that is the containerized environment. The reason that's really important is because it's distribution agnostic. When you have that container image, all of the libraries are inside that container. Everything that you need is inside that container. It's either coming from Proton itself or it's coming from the container. And you can take that container and you can put it wherever the hell you want.
That's pretty cool.
So that's why pressure vessels makes Proton really freaking cool. And so I saw that, and I was like, this is really cool. Why can't we use this outside of Steam? And that's when I remember his name now, Eric.
Got it.
So Eric says, he's the guy from Valve. He says, we can, and we have it documented. And so I went, and I was like, I looked at the documentation. I was like, what? This has been out for how long and nobody's done anything like this? And it's documented right here. So I went and read the docs. I cooked up after Summit ended, I went back home and I went back and I cooked up this just stupid ugly bash script. Yeah. But it had everything that you needed to get Pressure Vessel running. And ran the bash script, and I was able to run Pressure Vessel and run Proton and run a game inside of it. And I was like, proof of concept, it works. So
nice. Okay.
That's where UMU came from. That's where UMU started. it was an idea between. Well, it started with me asking that question, but it was an idea between all of us that were there, to get something that was agnostic from both Steam and distributions that people could use to run games that are non-Steam games. So we did that, and we've been working on that over the past year, and we built a database on it as well, because the other part of it is, if you've ever used Lutris,
Yes.
that if you go to their website, they have miniature install scripts, and those install scripts might do like registry edits, or they might do wine tricks, or things like that, right?
Yep.
So Valve has the same thing. They do that in their VDF files for each game. And GOG does the same thing. They have GOG install scripts as well. And so while Valve and GOG have those done, it's not always easily portable. And on top of that, we have games that don't fall under those two categories, like, for example, Epic Games.
Okay, yeah.
So what we wanted to do is also build a database of all of those fixes that Lutris does, that GOG does, that Valve does
for each game,
and so on and so forth for each game. Now we don't need them for games that don't need fixes, but there are some games that do need fixes and little tiny tweaks and things like that. That started as the Proton fixes in GE, and then we expanded that into UMU Proton fixes. So the original Proton fixes in GE was just for Steam games that needed fixes, and then we grew that out, added other stores to it. So now it handles like your GOG, your Epic Games Store, BattleNet's in there. There's a couple other third-party stores that are in there. But the other important thing about that is having them all in one place. Because say you have like the Valve version of Red Dead Redemption 2 in Steam, and then like say you also have the Epic Games Store version of Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah.
Valve has patches in Proton that are only triggered by the Steam game ID. Obviously, the Epic Games version isn't going to have that.
Okay.
So here's what we do. We say, we see you're running the Epic Games version of Red Dead Redemption 2. We've got a fix in here for it. We're going to fake assigning the Steam game ID, so that way the Epic Games version picks up the patched in fixes from Valve.
This is insane. So you're telling me, because I'm trying to understand, like, so I think let's backtrack a little bit, because I can see we can go really complex there. So let's backtrack. So the idea of UMU was ready to make an agnostic, I would say, like Proton version, right, which is not depending on Steam. So launching the Vesher okay, so you got it. So launching this like container outside of Steam, right? But also including the database for all the game.
Exactly. So there's two parts to it.
Yeah, but also like you have also like this database, I guess, will be also adapted for every launcher, right? Because you just mentioned that the ID will be different.
Back end.
Yeah.
So here's the thing: the database entries are basically it's a big giant CSV sheet, right? Okay. Just a big ugly stupid CSV sheet. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And we've got this database, and it's shipped as part of Proton fixes. So GE Proton has UMU launcher, UMU Proton fixes built in. It reads that sheet, pulls fixes from that sheet.
Got it.
So that's how the Proton fixes are integrated into UMU. And that's why when you use UMU as a backend for running any of your games, you're going to get those fixes, no matter what you're using. Like if, for example, like Lutris is using it as a backend and Heroic's using it as a backend, or they have it as at least for testing for backend right now. But both of them, they both use UMU, and therefore they both use the same fixes. And this also gives a centralized place for people to contribute fixes, rather than rather than people going and editing a Lutris script, or submitting a fix to Heroic, or other, maybe even like, God forbid, somebody still using Play on Linux, but that was a thing at some point.
Got it, yeah.
But again, having those all in different places versus one unified place. And so we have that in that one unified database that everybody can contribute to. We've gotten a ton of entries in there now, and it's awesome.
That's awesome. And I'm guessing on your end too, you don't have to maintain the WineGE either, because it kind of like take place.
Exactly. Like
right?
I already deprecated WineGE. A lot of people don't know that, as a lot of people are still trying to use the old WineGE 8 whatever. And I've marked the GitHub as deprecated because we're not using it anymore. We've moved on to UMU. We're trying to get everything integrated into UMU. And for the most part, like 90% of the stuff that we throw at it works. It's been great.
This is
I have
awesome.
I have this guy Arenas that has been working a lot with us, and he helped us run the booth at Ubuntu Summit this past year, where we had like demos of UMU running behind like Heroic and behind Lutris and even on Nobara, and we had a big TV set up. We had people stopping by the booth and playing like Doom Eternal and a couple of typical Linux games that we have on demo.
Yeah.
But it was pretty cool. It was all running through UMU, and it's just I'm super excited about it becoming a thing now.
That's nice. So how long have you been working on this project? Like since early
UMU started. Yeah, UMU started beginning of I would say end of 2023, because in November of 2023 is when Summit was last year.
Okay.
Or the year before last year. So so 2023 came, Summit in 2023 came, and then after Summit, we had the idea and we started putting it together and started working on it, and we worked on it all through the year, through 2024, through summer, and then November 2024 came, and that's when another Summit was, and I was like, hey, I have something else to show off, so they allowed me to go out there to Summit again, and that's amazing. Thank you for all of my Ubuntu friends. You guys are awesome.
Nice.
But yeah, they allowed me to go to Summit again and show off UMU and talk to more people, network with more people, and now we're about to go do it again at scale.
Nice. So when do you plan to release this baby? Like
it's already released. We already had a first release at the end of right before Summit in November.
No way.
Yeah. So 1.1. I believe 1.1.3 or 1.1.4, one of them was like the first release, and we're about to drop 1.2.0 now.
Oh man, I'm gonna tell you the truth. I've been a bad student here because I've been following the project, but I didn't get it. You see, I didn't get it.
Well, it's because that's the kicker about it, is that it's mostly like a backline tool. Now you can use it on the command line if you want, but more so it's meant as a background tool for things like Lutris or things like Heroic or things like Bottles, where instead of them having their own separate patched hundreds of versions of Wine, you just use UMU.
It's a mess.
All of it, like that's it.
I think from a user experience, it could be a game like a real game changer, because if you can achieve, and I'm pretty sure you are there, because you say like it's 90%, right, of the game that run like directly by using the database, and it creates this seamless experience. Because like we have to say it, like me, I've been insulted by my viewer multiple times because I'm doing something I'm not supposed to do. I'm using Heroic, and I'm just pushing, like I'm usually using Proton on it, right? And so it kind of like respects. Like I know Lutris changed, I think it was 3 or 4 months ago, because Lutris before you had to like play with the folder and put the version of GXVK, whatever, like because it was not really respecting the same approach as Heroic. But Heroic, like when you just throw Proton at it, most of the games they will start. But it's not the right way to do it. Right?
Right, obviously. Yeah, that's one of the things that I was adamant against, and that's another reason why I also started working on UMU, because I would get you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I know. But that's why
I have rants from like 3 years ago on Reddit of me just going off about people using Proton without it being in the runtime environment.
I'm guilty. I
know there's plenty of people that are guilty too.
But like it's good because it solved an issue, right? Like my behavior kind of show and prove the fact that when you install a game on whether it's Lutris or Heroic, like I don't have a real preference, but like I like Heroic, but technically, objectively, like I don't have any preference. I think the issue is sometimes you have to play with a wine version, right? And I've been in situation where I had to recompile myself with some script like Wine, including the patch. And I can't imagine, like a Lambda user willing to do that. It's just a deal breaker to me, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
I mean,
like,
dude, expecting a user to patch anything
like,
that's a deal breaker.
yeah,
They don't want to waste the time. I understand
exactly.
that. That's again like that's also why I wanted to build the database, because I wanted all the fixes for these games in one place. If it needs a patch, we need to know what patch it is and get it in. If we, if it needs just a script fix, or like even just a launcher change, or maybe like the launcher doesn't work because it uses .NET but the game works and we need to launch the game executable, that's a thing. All those kinds of fixes, we want those in the database so that people have a seamless experience whenever they go to use it. And
That's cool.
that's what we've been aiming for.
So I'm going to get just a little bit technical because we didn't really have a plan. I did it on purpose not to have a plan for this interview, because I like when it's unstructured, because the flow kind of like go through.
Yeah.
So when you do UMU, so sorry for the pronunciation, like UMU with the M, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So when you do the actual build of UMU, on what version of Proton it is based off when you start it? Like can we go at this level of like technicity just for
yeah
maybe the more
sure.
like accurate view, or like what is the behind the scene? Because we know there is a database, but what about the other part?
So UMU is basically it's like a glorified version of this bash script that I said that was ugly. We've completely rewritten it in Python. It's nice and pretty and super awesome now. Thanks, Arenas. You're awesome. But what we do when you launch it is it just basically uses environment variables. You can point it to a Proton version that you want. If you don't have a Proton version, it defaults to UMU Proton, which UMU Proton is literally just the latest stable release of Valve's Proton with UMU functionality added to it, and maybe like one or two small patches from ProtonGE. Nothing major, nothing super changing, just the very basic stuff that's like QOL improvements. But that's what it is based with, is UMU Proton. Now, if you go to use Lutris and you select the GE latest, that's going to use UMU with the latest version of GE.
Got it. So you still have control over that. Okay, this is what I was kind of asking.
Oh yeah, you have full control. The things that you can't control right now are wine prefix, the Proton version, obviously the game location, and we also, one of the things that we do a little bit different from Valve's is we automatically, for all games, we enable the game drive option. The reason that is like it's the Z. If you've ever browsed inside a Proton prefix, it's the Z drive.
Yeah, got it. Yeah.
So the thing is, if you don't mount that, and you have your games installed outside of the Proton prefix, it can make the games think that they don't have enough disk space. So by having that set up, that's another quirk. So we learned that since, especially with people using Heroic, a lot of the times they'll install their games on a drive, but they'll have their prefix on an entirely different drive or different folder or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have that enabled in order for both of them to work together. But those things you can fix. I think we're still working on environment variable pass-through and DLL change pass-throughs for things like DXVK and VKD3D. Like if you want to change the versions of those in Lutris, I think we're still working on that. I have to double check.
Okay.
But
you could still do that in the future, right? It's some of the part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not a big issue at all. But even then, right now, it's perfectly fine because most people expect to just use whatever version is built inside the Proton anyway. So
that's pretty cool. This is pretty cool. Like I have to say, like this is a type of ideas when they go from a simple discussion like that you had with Eric, I guess, if I remember correctly, and it become a full project, obviously with you and the rest of the community to achieve like a simplification, right? Because at the end of the day, like when you do a project like that, you kind of like fix you know, something that was working but not working as expected, kind of, right? Like improve. And this is really cool to watch, right?
So here's something that that most users can probably do very easily with UMU. If you can find it as a package on your system, most people can. Like I know I have it on Nobara. We provide it as I think we have a testing snap pack or a testing flat pack for it. We have a deb package for both Fedora or for both Ubuntu and Debian.
Mm-hmm.
But for people testing it, I think there's also even a NixOS build out there. I don't.
Nice.
If they want to try it through just a simple command line, just go to the GitHub, read the README, figure out what options are there, and you can basically use that for like a GOG game.
Okay.
The other kicker is that there's a thing called, or there's an option called Game ID, and this is where your your UMU fixes come in. So every single game in UMU has an UMU ID, and that is defined by Game ID. Like the environment variable is called Game ID. That to UMU is what a Steam Game ID is to Steam. So if you and we have this, that's the other part of the database. So we take the database and we have just a very basic small container running that nightly imports or I think it's even hourly maybe, it imports the database from GitHub and refreshes it and then puts it all online. You can go to like UMU, I think it's umu.openwinecomponents.org, and there's just a simple database page there. You can search whatever game you want, and it'll tell you, it'll come up with all the options that are entered in the database for that game, and you can find the ID that way.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So umu.openwinecomponents.org. You can start. It's real basic, just an ugly page. It's got a search bar, spits out database values.
Nice.
But yeah, you get the game ID from there, and you plug it into whatever other options you want for UMU, and that's a good way to test it. To figure out how it works.
That's pretty cool. So, man, like, so you know, I was thinking, how did you get this name? What does it mean?
UMU?
Yes, universal something.
Okay.
Like,
what is it? It is a Samoan. It's a Samoan. It's another word for a Samoan. How can I put this? It's a Samoan oven made out of lava rocks.
What?
So okay, so I've explained this. Are
you playing with me right now?
No.
Okay.
So if you're like, say you're going to go like old school, you know, like an old school pressure cooker, right?
Hmm?
The way that works on old school is you actually put it on the stove, you close the pressure cooker, and you heat it up on the stove, right?
Yeah.
Well, pressure vessel is a pressure cooker. That's literally what a pressure vessel is a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
So what we're taking pressure vessel, we're putting it on our UMU, our oven, our stove. That's our stovetop.
Oh, got it.
So UMU gives it the heat and gets pressure vessel running so that it can start cooking.
Nice, man. This is nice. Okay.
So that's where the name came from. And we had to. I thought about that after a long while because our original name was ULWGL, and holy shit, that was ugly. It was I think it was Unified Linux Game Launcher, something like that. Unified Linux Wine Game Launcher. That's what. See, that's why we changed it.
Yeah, I get it now. I get it. But I thought it was an acronym. For something. And you know,
UMU.
Dude, I think it's cool with you because, okay, don't take it bad, okay? I'm gonna be like straight to the collar. I think when we enter like your world, it's every name has kind of like a story. You know what I mean? Like think about it. Like when you enter like the GloriousEggroll world, like everything has kind of like a connotation to something, right? So I think it's pretty cool, dude. Because you have Nobara, so I guess you watch anime.
Oh yeah. Nobara is my weeb project.
Weeb. Bro, you're gonna have to explain that to me. I'm too old.
You don't know what a weeb is?
So listen, I see it everywhere. Like weeb. I see like those anime girl.
Weeb is just somebody that is obsessed with anime, that loves anime.
Okay.
All it is. They're like a big anime fan. It's nothing terrible. Being called weeb is just perfectly fine. I call myself weeb all the time. My dad's a weeb. My dad has called himself a weeb.
So does he have a sorry, not your dad. Does weeb has a relation with the anime which are more like sexual? Sorry,
No,
okay.
No, not at all.
Because each time I see weeb, there is always like this Sailor Moon type of girl, and I'm like, I'm old school. Like me, I liked Dragon Ball, this type of stuff. Like it's more my generation, right? But I didn't switch to the next phase of anime. I have a big respect for anime. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not a huge like content eater, I would say, right?
Yeah. Depends on where you spend all your time, and especially like if you have a wife and kids, it's hard to spend your time watching anime all the time.
Yeah, that's true. I heard about some, but like man, like this is awesome. So you are a huge fan of anime, so you are a weeb.
Oh yeah, yep, pretty much in a nutshell.
That's pretty good.
I don't know if anybody, for those who know about Nobara 40, so we do wallpapers every release. We'll do a set of wallpapers, and the last two sets we have used some AI generated art from prompts, and I'm the one who comes up with those prompts.
Okay.
So most of the time, it's pretty interesting. The last time that we did it, we had our normal standard like artsy stuff, but then we also had a whole second line called Weebara, and it was basically our weeb mascot.
Okay, I didn't see that, man.
Yeah, it's if you check on Nobara 40 or higher, you can get those wallpapers, and you'll see there's just like it's like an anime girl or person with blue hair. She's usually wearing like a long jacket.
Whoa, you made those? Okay, now
those are anime. Yeah, they're AI generated art. I'm not gonna bluff about it. Like some people love it, some people hate it, but it's cool to make stuff.
Yeah, okay, I like that. I think I'm a weeb too, dude. I like that. This is looking good.
Yeah, so we did that one, and then all the ones from Nobara 41 this time, like all the scenic backgrounds and the forests and the deserts and stuff like that. Those were also AI generated, but there's one that's at the very end. You see all these nice scenic outdoorsy things, but the last one is a raccoon eating pizza, and he's looking at you like, "Ah, shit, I'm caught." And that was fully AI generated as well.
Nice.
So we have fun with it with the wallpapers. At each release, we try to anyway.
And they're looking good. Like I see it each time I try one of your, like new work, like new Nobara release. So originally I like Dracula theme type of color, but I think you go in a purple which is, a little bit more dense, I would say, with a little bit more contrast. I try to
stick to kind of I guess the easiest way to put it, love it or hate, is like VS Code colors, the purple and the like the tealish. Just because I like the color scheme, dark with purple and dark with teal, so, like it sticks with me. It works.
It's good on your eyes too. It's good on your eyes.
That too.
I was in Dracula for like the last 3 years, and I switched maybe like 6 months ago to Nor. Nor, like the bluish.
Yeah.
Oh, it's good too. I like it too, man. Like, I don't. Do you like it? Or you're
it's
more?
Good. Yeah, it's good.
It's pretty good. I was really surprised. Like it's good too, but the purplish and especially like your version. I didn't know you were behind the AI generated stuff too. I didn't know about that. But it's
that was literally just me using a couple of services and putting in really wild prompts. Like I spend a lot of time like on those wallpapers just thinking about what to put into the prompts to figure out, okay, well maybe this was too light, this was too dark, or I want more of this, I want less of this. And like it's not art. I'm not making the art from scratch, I'm not going to go and claim that I'm doing that or anything like that. I'm just coming up with a prompt. But
it's fine, dude.
It's fun. To me, it's fun to see what it comes up with when I and I put in some I've seen some really crazy shit. Even in 39, we had the Linux Mecha Penguins wallpapers.
Oh, I
I
didn't
don't
see
know if
this
you
one.
saw them. Oh
Didn't see
yeah,
this
it's a
one.
whole bunch of penguin. It's like mecha penguins,
Yeah,
penguin mix, and they're all different wallpapers, and they're all like either like attacking cities or like doing Godzilla like stuff or like
nice, man.
Gundam like stuff. It's really cool.
It's cool, man. I like it. And also on top of it, like now let's switch to Nobara. Like you still give the option. You know, you have the Nobara ISO if you're into that, and it's cool. But also, if I remember correctly, you just have the one without the Nobara touch, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
So it's like you not only you give the option. I think honestly it would be like bad, not even bad. Like it could hurt in between comma, if you were imposing something, but you are not even doing that, right? Like the
Yeah.
theme, you can let it or not. So me, I like. I think this is also part of the core of Linux is having freedom, and you give options, so everybody has the freedom to go left and right, right? But me,
Yeah.
I'm a fan of the AI and the vision through the AI. Even if you didn't do it, I have to say each time I start like a new installation of Nobara and I arrive on this lock screen, I'm like, okay, this purple, I'm back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so the official the quote unquote official version of Nobara is always going to be what I'm feeling at the time, what I want on my desktop at the time. Like,
Yeah,
you know, before we had it built on GNOME and I had GNOME themed out. The last couple iterations we've had KDE and I've had KDE themed out. And, you know, there are technical reasons why we switched from GNOME to KDE, but also, you know, no matter which one I'm on, I'm going to build a theme for either of them, and I want that customized version because that's me. That's what I'm using on my systems. You know, some people may not like the theming, and that's fine. They got the normal KDE version, they got
exactly.
the normal GNOME version, but I like what I use, and I want to be able to have it ready and available whenever I'm there. I don't want to go theme it out every single time I do an install. You know?
Exactly. Oh, that's cool. That's really nice, man. Me, I will be aligned with what you do in terms of theming. Again, like I'm a Dracula man. I'm a Dracula fan. I have a problem with that. But like you are ready. I think it's top notch. When it comes to like you mentioned something that interests me. So you said for Nobara, I would like to be, what I use, and you said I move from GNOME to KDE.
Mm-hmm.
What is your vision right now for Nobara? Like what? So everybody knows for like Nobara. I don't think we have to present it again, but like what would be for you the next step for Nobara in terms of like what you do and it's not maybe represented right now on the distro?
The biggest thing is I want to streamline the updates. The updates have always been a hard point for a lot of regular users. People that have stuck with me for many years, who are on my Discord, they love Nobara, and they'll admit that at times there have been times where just the updates, either there would be a conflict or there'd be a small tweak that they need to fix, or it's kind of the same as Arch in a way. If you used Arch for a long time, you have to keep an eye on the Arch newsfeed because every once in a while something would come down the pipeline that would mess something up. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of new users don't get that. They're like, they hit the first road bump and they're like, "Oh, I'm tired of this." Or maybe it happens 3 or 4 times and they're like, "Oh, I'm tired of this." Well, I understand that. I totally understand. I get that. I came from Arch. And so what I want to do is I really, really want to streamline the update process for the system, get all those conflicts and road bumps out of the way so that we can stop users from having that experience and have them have a more pleasant experience in terms of just the regular system updates. And like before we started, I was telling you how I want to merge all the repositories and just have 2 main ones and sort out the conflicts before pushing it to users. So I hope that in the long run, we're able to do that and provide a much smoother experience. I will say one other thing real quick is that we're trying to avoid having to have people use DNF because with Nobara, we've built the Nobara updater and we put a lot of stuff into that. And one of the biggest things about that is that it has a set of quirks.
Hmm.
So if there's certain things that need to be fixed that either within packages or within configurations, or things that might need to be reverted, or things that need to be checked or changed, the quirks will handle that. And if you're just running DNF update, you're not going to get those quirks, and you're not going to get those fixes. That is the biggest thing about that, and that's why we try to push the updater on people, is because we really want that. And it logs everything. There's a full log. It has a folder. It keeps up to like 5 or 6 logs in the folder at any given time. If you need to see if something failed, or you need to see a log about if something changed, you can go look at it. It's the exact same as using DNF in terms of logging. It just does more on the quirk side, and that's the really important part. So, if you stick to that updater, it's gonna take you a long way.
So yeah, so now you mentioned that. So just to roll back a little bit. So you told me like you don't want to take much time. You speak as you want, dude. Okay, like you go for it, no problem. Okay, like we are here for you. But when you mention like the first user experience regarding Linux and the fact that sometimes it can be a little bit bumpy, I'm not talking about Nobara right now. I'm talking about all the distro in general, and maybe all the new users that might be like listening to us. There is no distro out there that never had a bump in its life. So there is distro, obviously, which are more rolling edge, who might have more bump. But at the end of the day, like, in terms of expectation, I would say to all the viewers out there, there is always a bump. Like, because I understand your vision to streamline, but I also think that the users themselves, they need to understand that it happens on every operating system. There is bump. Like, I don't know if some of the users out there are old enough for the 2000 bugs we heard like for like months and years, dude, which was something related to hardware, was supposed to break everything, and it was a big bump, and it was in every operating system. So I'm laughing about it, but the truth is, like, me in my little like experience of Linux and Debian for a lot of years, having even a stable base, you can be like in a rough position when you make a big upgrade. You move from Debian 8 to 9, and you have this big upgrade. And I'm telling you, like, when you are doing the upgrade, you are behind your screen, and you're like, oh God, please don't break. But you know it. You know what? Like, so, I just want to relativize a little bit that, because I think the expectation should be also a little bit lower. It's just my 2 cents. It's not you saying anything. It's just me. Like, I want our viewer to think about that first. And the second point is, like, when you mentioned the updater, I was laughing because I did this mistake of playing with DNF when I tested your distro. And because Fedora is not my cup of tea, and also related to the complexity of Fedora. Like, Fedora, I believe, is a great distro, but it requires a lot of like adaptation, even if you are used to other distro. And I don't want to be mean towards the wiki of Fedora, but when you come from the wiki of Arch and you go to the wiki of Fedora, especially with DNF5, like, bro, this is tough. Like, this is tough, at least for me. Like, I was telling you, dude. And I appreciate that this vision, right? Which you push an updater which already do all the quirks. And actually, even in the log of the GUI, you can see the quirk. Because I was reading it, I was like, what? You are touching rock M, and you are making sure the codec are here. Like, it's written, like a line by line. So
yes.
I was like, okay.
It tells you everything that it's doing.
Yeah, it's doing more than just DNF. So I'm like, okay, this is good, right? Yeah. And I believe, and again, like, this is not against you or anybody, but like, if you jump into any type of distro and you start to play, like, at what is under the hood, guys, you're on your own. Like,
yeah, that's pretty much it.
If I buy a Tesla and I'm like, bro, like, I'm gonna flash the firmware, I'm gonna go at 300. Like, you don't expect our buddy Elon to help you on that. I'm exaggerating. I'm taking a weird example there, but you get the idea, right?
Oh yeah.
So
here's the other thing about the updater, and also, like, we ship UMX NG, which is Nobara package manager. UMX NG it's on GitHub. I've worked with him, and I've submitted fixes to him for that repo for at least the last 2 or 3 years now. And the reason we did that is because if you go to Ubuntu they have a package manager for their packages. If you go to Debian, they have a package manager. Even if you go to Arch, Arch has package managers. There was no GUI package manager really for Fedora. You've got DNF Dragora, but if I'm being honest, it's pretty
you're
darn
right.
slow.
Yeah, I never thought about that. Yeah.
Pretty darn slow. The only way that you're able to visually manage packages is through either KDE Discover or GNOME Software. There's no desktop agnostic way to manage packages. So I wanted that. So now with Nobara Updater and with Nobara Package Manager, you have an agnostic way to do that. If we decide to go change desktop environments for like the next version of official, we still have those, you know?
That's cool. Yeah.
And they also, like, the Nobara Package Manager is able to manage Flatpaks. And the other thing that we went ahead and did, here's another kicker. GNOME Software and KDE Discover, they don't respect repository priority. So what that means is if you have your Fedora repositories, right? Let's say they're ranked at the default priority is 0. They're going to be at the top of they're going to be at the top of the list. Now, well, let's rank them at 50, for example. So we'll put them at 50, so they're halfway through the list. The lower the number, the higher the priority is. So if we go and let's say I add another custom Copper repository, and it has a kernel, and I want that kernel to always be the main kernel that I use. Obviously, I want that to have a lower. I mean, I want that to be more important, so we're gonna assign that a lower priority number so that it takes high priority over Fedora's default kernel.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, so with those priority numbers, you can assign those in the repo files. KDE Discover and GNOME Software don't obey those. So what we would get oftentimes is KDE would say, "Oh, hey, you've got a package update, or you have an updated version," and it would be an updated kernel from Fedora. But on our side, we haven't pushed a kernel update yet. So then it would try to update from the Fedora kernel because it has no idea about the repo priority.
Holy cow! I didn't know that.
Yeah, so for the longest time, we were telling people don't update through Plasma on Nobara, or don't update through Discover on Nobara, or don't update through GNOME Software on Nobara. So what we finally did is I went through both of those packages and I gutted PackageKit. Because PackageKit is the backend that it uses for managing system packages. So now both of those can only manage Flatpaks.
Got it.
So now they can safely only manage Flatpaks, and the only way that you can manage system packages with a GUI is through Nobara Package Manager or the Updater.
Man, I learned something, dude. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So you see, it's funny because I never really digged into Discover because on Arch you are not supposed to use it, I think. And me, again, it's just me, but I like terminal. I don't know. I love my terminal, typing my little command and seeing the thing moving up, right?
Typical Linux user. The first thing it's an instinct these days. You just
you
need to do something, you immediately open it.
Yeah, it's kind of an addiction, to be fair. But now you say that, I never thought that Discover will mess up that much. It could break your system. It could literally break your system.
That's why we stopped. And Fedora doesn't have the problem with repo priority by default because they say, okay, we're going to ship ours. We don't care what anybody else uses. You screw it up, that's your problem.
Oh, yeah, makes sense. Yeah, yep, makes sense.
But for us, we're shipping Fedora's repos, and then we've got our Nobara Copper repos on top of that. We need that repo priority to make sure that our packages are taking priority over the base Nobara or base Fedora packages.
That's cool, man. That's pretty cool. Something I noticed when I start to test the latest version of Nobara is the work you put into the wiki too, because you switch, right? The wiki doesn't look the same.
Yeah, we recently just redid that entirely, and we can actually thank Peter from CachyOS PTR 1337.
Yeah,
he's the one who suggested us to use Wiki.js for our wiki, and we started using it. Both me and Lion, and I think Ritter we've all been contributing to it and putting all the things in one place. So
that's cool. Because I think like now you have your like such your own world and your own like distro, like it has to come with a wiki, right? And especially for user like me, we're gonna break it anyways. Like now you have a wiki, like there is a wiki, you have no excuse anymore.
The other thing about the wiki is when I first started at Red Hat, one of the requirements of the job is we have to write what are called KCS articles, KCS, which are like knowledge-based solution articles.
Okay.
That's part of our job. We have to have a certain amount done in order to get like a promotion moving forward for at least the first couple of positions.
Okay.
So that's how I kind of got into technical writing that way and cleaning things up and getting things situated that way. And from that branch, well, now I know how to write this wiki. That alongside with once I moved into a senior position, they had me do a lot of training. Like training other people, and in order to train those people, I also had to put together a lot of different documentation to go over and a lot of stuff like that. So between all of that, I was like, okay, I know how to do this wiki. I'm just going to go ahead and get it hammered out. And even then, my roots from Arch, I know how the Arch wiki works. I know how fantastic it is. I want to eventually get to that level in terms of, you can just look here or Google it and it'll boom pop up and give you the answer that you need. I'd rather it come from the wiki than some random forum or like back how things were on Ubuntu, where you Google something and you get 20 different answers from 20 different forums about people that are like half clueless.
Yeah,
not all of them are like that, but that's how it was
in 20 different time too, right? So what could be real like 16 years ago, it might not be real again. No, but that's true, right? Like this is one of the biggest issue, right? Too, because this guy was right 16 years ago. He had like all this upvote, and now you do it on your machine, and you have like you're stuck at Grub and you don't know what to do anymore. Say like, So no, that's good. Yeah, documentation is key. I didn't know you would have to do like that much documentation as a like employee as Red Hat, but it makes sense, right?
It depends on it. I mean, it depends on your job, but on the tech side, pretty much everybody that's in a tech side SBR has to do it.
Makes sense. Okay, well that's cool. So yeah, it's pretty promising for Nobara. So
like I said, I learned a lot about OS stuff when I worked at Red Hat, man.
Yeah, I imagine, dude. That's pretty cool. So you know what? So we cover that. I think just for the viewer here, I started to play with Nobara 41. So far, like a lot of fun. As always, I did some mistake, but I'm gonna get back to it and see like like the future of it. But I have to say to you, I've been testing it since the 38, okay, and I have the chance to speak with you, and I can tell there has been a huge improvement all over the place, right? So some of the improvements it doesn't take anything out of your work, but it's just my approach. I think Fedora also like improved a lot during this period, right? Like Fedora 37, I think, or 38 was like, oh bro, like that was tough. But like like the Nobara 39, Nobara 40, like really nice when it comes to gaming and content creation. I was really amazed at what you have done for the. I don't want to spoil my review, but like what you have done with the DaVinci Resolve installer. I think this is.
That's.
I can see the work behind it.
I'm so glad that one's. I'm so glad that one's working the way that it needs to now, because that was a big pain point. And I every time I would check DaVinci Resolve, I've been using DaVinci Resolve for like a really long time, and it was always a pain in the ass, like always. And you go through these points where sometimes it'll work on Fedora, sometimes it doesn't. It depends on whatever libraries you have. Yeah. So then I've gotten a lot of people asking me about that. There's like, what are you doing on Nobara that's so different from all these other distros? Literally, we just said, okay, let's take whatever packages it needs for whatever versions. Let's build a runtime environment out of it. So I literally just said, okay, it needs these libraries from these specific Fedora packages. Some of them are from like Fedora 37.
I know. I've seen the script. I've seen your script. I was like, okay, how do we do it?
I literally just took the libraries out of those packages, put it into a runtime, and then I was like, okay, we're going to preload this runtime. So I did that, and then I built a script that says, okay, if you want to install it, where you're going to have to tell us where the installer is. We'll run the installer, and then after we run the installer, we'll edit the shortcuts so that it runs a preload script.
Yep.
So now, that way when you run you run the shortcut, it actually runs the preload script that then runs resolve rather than running resolve directly.
Yeah, it's cool, man.
So,
like, it's cool, and I think the last implementation is way smoother than the previous one, because you it's seamless, right? From a user standpoint, you go there, you click, it's like, where is your installer? Okay, upgrade, install. You click, you wait, you're good to go, right? So for the user who are not using DaVinci Resolve, like installing DaVinci Resolve on Linux, if you don't have like one of those, like I would say old stable distro, like if you're not running Red Hat, Rocky Linux, Alma Linux, it's not a click, it's not a one-click experience.
No.
Let's word it this way, okay? So on Arch, there is a AUR repo. Problem of the AUR repo as it is right now, and again, I have nothing against the gentleman like maintaining it because he's doing an absolute job. But DaVinci Resolve is pushing like an update every like 2 weeks or 3 weeks sometimes. And this poor guy at the AUR, he had to update it because there is a signature like checking system within the script, which is fair, which has to be updated manually. And so when you download the file, if you have the new version, you won't be able to install. So it kind of like break. But with your approach, you don't care, right? You just download, crack, library, and I think it's good, right? I think I was really happy about that. But I don't want to send you too much flour, dude. Okay, like I'm gonna have to do a solid review. Okay, well, but like, it's good, man. It's nice, Like I did recommend your distro for gaming and content creation. I think for someone who is moving from Windows or even Mac and wanna launch a distro, have one of the best experience out there. Like Nobara is definitively in the top 3, like top 5, top 3. I would say top 3. Like definitively.
One thing I kind of also want to point out about like gaming on Nobara.
Yeah.
A lot of new users, especially users that aren't familiar with Linux, they come from Windows and they have maybe like a game drive or a game, a game SSD that has all their games installed on it and it's separate from whatever OS they're using.
Yeah.
And a lot of distros will not auto mount that drive and they'll have to figure out how to mount that drive. Sometimes they'll have to go through GNOME, whatever GNOME disks or KDE's software. What we did in Nobara is we added it as part of the Nobara tweak tool. So the way that works, and I saw somebody was talking shit about that, but hear me out.
Yeah.
Hear me out.
Okay, I'm listening.
So when you create a user, when you install the system and you create a new user, 99% of the time you're going to create that user with admin privileges, right? You're going to have your root user, and then you'll have your normal user that you log into, and that'll have your admin privileges be part of the wheel group.
Yep. Or
the admin user group. What we did is we made it so that script only works if that person whoever's logged in is in the wheel group, and that helps to keep it secure. It's a PK. It's a polkit rule, and that polkit rule says, okay, if this user's in the admin group, then we'll go ahead and let them auto mount the partitions that they want, and that's what allows them to easily open the tweak tool and just check or uncheck a box. Now, we did do obviously a lot of work and a lot of scripting and a lot of coding on making sure it's the correct file system, make sure it's has the correct permissions, make sure it's not doing a recursive permission overwrite, because that would really suck. And we had that happen. We had somebody correct that.
Okay.
We did a lot of work on that in order to just make it just a simple checkbox, and it's super super convenient for those who are on like the handheld version or the HTPC version, because it's enabled by default, and it's just going to auto mount it in like your run media username and then whatever UUID it is. But since it's auto mounting like that, when you're in Steam automatically picks it up. It says, "Oh, okay, we see you fresh HTTPC install.
I get it.
Not a problem. Not a problem at all."
So
And
you see,
some people might love it, some people might hate it. If you hate it, just go and check a box. You're done.
so you see, I'm gonna tell you my thought on that. Honest thought. I think the wiki is gonna come handy here, because
Yes, I have an entry for it.
because this is a trick. Like if you just set it on an auto mount, it might be misinterpreted.
Right.
But if you explain the fact that there is all this, like I would say, like security system behind, will make sure like the user is part of the wheel. He won't like touch in any way the content of the hard drive which is mounted. Then it's another story, right?
It is on the wiki already.
Nice. Okay, but this is the thing. Like, because man, whoa, listen, me, I'm all for the change, okay? I'm all for the change, I'm all for the innovation, but I think it's hard also to kill the old habit. And when I say old habit, is like, I would say some of the users who are using Linux and stuff, I'm not talking about myself here. They'll be like, what's going on? Like someone is touching something for me. Like this.
Yeah, I know. I get a lot of old heads that are just like, what are you doing?
Exactly.
Why? You shouldn't be touching that. Only I can touch that.
Exactly.
Why are you touching it? I get it. I totally get it.
You see?
But I'm coming from a standpoint where if my dad goes and buys a SSD from the store and I'm over the phone and I tell him how to plug it in, I don't want to also explain how to mount it to him.
That's a good point.
At the end of the day,
hey, just to be clear,
want ease of use.
Just to be clear, this is not you. This is not me. You are listening about like complaining about this auto mount. Just to make clear. Okay. No, I want to make sure. Okay, bro. But like me, I will be on the other side. But I'm dumb like that. Like when you said you're gonna open like GNOME or what, I don't even know the software like GDisk or whatever. Me, I will be like, what? You're not opening the Arch wiki and and editing your FS tab? Come on.
LSB, yeah, obviously you could do FSTab.
LSB. Yeah. No, I'm playing with you. Okay, like I'm just.
Well, no, I'm
just
saying.
With you, dude. Okay?
I'm saying that's the way we know how to do it.
Exactly.
I'm with you on that. I know how to do it.
Like, what,
you know how to do it.
Yeah.
But Joe Schmo that's coming from Windows that's like 80 years old is not going to know how to do that.
Exactly. And I think like when you come with the explanation behind, it's a game changer. Like it need to be kind of like explained, because I'm gonna tell you like the type of feedback I had from some of the like review I would say feedback commentary, and I don't line with that. I'm pretty transparent about what I think about stuff. Like if I had to talk about the if I had to make a podcast with the leader of MX Linux, we'll have a engaged discussion for sure, because I like to share like objectively like differences, because I do believe that from not conflict, but like discussion, something better can emerge. Okay. Like I like to do that. And some of the feedback I had toward Nobara, and one of the main one was like, dude, like, I can't trust Nobara versus Fedora. Listen, because there is only one guy behind it. And I'm like, bro, like, do you realize what you are saying? It's like everything is open source. The job is there. Like everything is documented. Like you can't say stuff like that. Right? Like, and we had this discussion multiple times, because it doesn't make sense, right? And I saw it with over distribution, where one of the maintainer will have a change of statute or whatever, and then in certain heads it will be like, oh, but now, like oh no, this is not how it works. This is the principle of open source. Open source is you have the code out there, everybody has access to it.
Everybody has access to it. Everybody can contribute to it, and you build friendships and followers and other people that contribute along the way.
Exactly.
I'm not the only person that works on Nobara anymore at all.
If you really
I've got a handful of people that help me. It's a small group of people, but it's not just me. And here, let me tell you something else. You know what? The Linux kernel started with just one person.
Yeah, and now how many are on it? Yeah, exactly, dude. But this is crazy, and I think it's a mentality type of approach. And again, I don't want to blame those persons, because maybe it's a lack of like, knowledge or stuff like that. But the fact that it's open out there, bro, like me, it drives me insane. Like it just drives me insane. So I just wanted to put that out there. I don't need to react to that, Glorious. But like,
let me also give like a different perspective in the terms of, let's say if I was that one person that was working. Okay, let's say that one person knows who to contact for certain things, knows where to look for certain things, knows what questions to ask for certain things, knows how to approach certain things, who has experience over several years of doing those things. Like, that one person can do a lot. There's been, okay, so I now have like a lot of friends who are on the Fedora side, on the Red Hat side, on the Ubuntu side. Like, I have friends that are pretty high up in various structures as well. And for me to be one person, and maybe if I'm stuck on something or if I have a question about something, I can go ask other people.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand that one person can still have a shitload of networking, and that networking helps a lot in terms of getting things done.
I agree.
Like,
I agree. I do agree. And honestly, like the more I learn about the community of like gaming on Linux, the more I discover that everybody is interconnected, right? Everybody is looking at what's going on there, what are the patch, like every code that's going to be pushed in one of other distro, like which are like top notch. I'm telling you, everybody's going to put their eyes on them. So, having this idea, there is a solo guy, like come on. Like, anyways, I just wanted to say that because I think sometimes it come out of the blue of, of what it's all about, right? It's about the community. It's about the fact that everything is out there. Like, there is no, it can't work this way. If let's say something crazy, someone goes there, like want to change something, do something stupid, it's gonna be corrected. It won't even be pushed. And even you, if you do it, someone, I'm pretty sure, is gonna come be like, hey, bro, it's not like I don't want that to my system, dude. Like, honestly, like, this is what it is. Yeah. So you are mentioning this auto-mount system. It's a perfect example for me. You did it. There is everything behind it to make it, like safe, to make it smart, like kind of like an innovation, like a path forward, right? So,
right.
I think it's just I'm gonna say the word like educational, like standpoint, because people, they don't know, right?
Yeah.
And we are all there, right? And sometimes it's good to take a little bit of feedback. I'm guilty of that. You see, I feel guilty. I'm gonna say it now.
Well,
I'm gonna.
It's like the age-old X11 versus Wayland. Like, if we're gonna go there, think about it. People want to stay on X11 because it works. People want to move to Wayland because it's got a lot of new features that X11 doesn't, and they're trying to make it work better and be a default. And they are getting there. But to get there, they have to have people that are moving to it and reporting things and fixing things and working on it. And there's that middle ground of people that don't want to move versus people who do. And it, like, I get it. If your job or your whatever you work on or your day-to-day absolutely depends on it, then I get your reason for wanting to stay. But if there's not really a hard stuck reason for you to stay, learn to move forward. Learn to go with the waves. Yeah. And it's so hard for me to put words there.
No, don't put words. Like, I think all the viewers, they will get it. Like, this is like, it's a cycle. And if, like, as a community, if we want to move forward, we kind of like have to hit the same direction. I can't, it's this is what it is. I know, like, me, like, I've been against Wayland because of NVIDIA. Okay, like, it was like 9 months ago, and I was really envious of my buddy with AMD card who could do, for example, like, tried Hyperland. Me, like, Hyperland for me was impossible, dude. I will launch it. And I would be like, it was all buggy. Like, I couldn't do anything. So I was asking my buddy, I was like, oh, how is the experience on Wayland? Oh, bro, this is awesome. I was like, man, come on. Yeah. So, I'm like, okay, so I stay on X11 and, I tried Wayland. I was really like curious about it, but I was really frustrated. So I kind of understand, like, the nayer. But on the other side, when things start to move on, like when NVIDIA finally, like, work on that with also, like, the team of Wayland, because I believe, like, from what I read from the PR and stuff, like, it was kind of like, anyways. So when they finally, like, work together and I was able to use explicit sync on my PC, I was like, oh, Wayland is so cool. There is a lot of problem. Don't get me wrong, Firefox was all over the place, there were issues, but I could tell the value added. I knew what I lose, but I could see the future. You see, you can see the path ahead, and you're like, bro.
Oh, dude. Well, like once the 560 driver hit, that was kind of really
Yeah.
what made NVIDIA users a little bit happier with Wayland. 560 and explicit sync,
Yeah.
both of those. In was it 39 to 40? That's when that was first coming out in Nobara 39 to 40. And I remember just spending days trying to get the NVIDIA drivers to work properly. And it finally got there, but it took a while to get there. And I think, because of the pain points that it took up until that, a lot of people are hesitant to make the move. And don't get me wrong, NVIDIA still has some issues on Wayland, but for the most part, they're working pretty fine. Like, I love my AMD card, but right now it's sitting right there, like on the corner. It's a 7900 XTX just chilling there. I've got a 4080 Super in my system because I've been, trying to make things work better on Nobara on the NVIDIA side. Another pain point on Nobara for a long time was the NVIDIA drivers, and I've been trying to make that much, much better. And I think it's also at a point here where it's not perfect, but it's getting close there. People might argue about the open source driver choice versus the proprietary one.
Yeah,
but
it's not your fault. Like this is where it's really hard. I think from a user standpoint to really pinpoint what is, I would say, the correct responsibility.
I don't think it'd be so much of a problem if people didn't have the 10 series.
Yeah. Also,
that's it. That's literally it.
Yeah. Or I would go even further. It would even have been the problem if NVIDIA was maybe a little bit, more. I wouldn't say respectful, but I would say like less pushy about the way they handle their thing, right? Because what they did with their driver is literally to say, hey, you have a 1080, like you have a Pascal.
Yeah.
That's the way they do it.
So I will say there are a couple of things on the Linux side with Pascal that are a pain. They still work perfect on Windows. Absolutely fine on Windows, but on Linux, it's had VRAM issues for a very, very long time. The Pascal cards in particular. They don't work too well with VKD3 with the X12. Yeah, that's Pascal for you.
Yeah.
And those pain points were only really able to be resolved by like upgrading and getting that GSP firmware enabled cards.
Yeah.
So I can understand their side of wanting people to move forward with that. But at the same time, what a consumer sees is, oh, I have that 1080 Ti that's working amazing on Windows. Why do you want me to move to a new card?
So
there's a hard.
Yeah. You mentioned it because to talk, I think TKG told me that. Like he actually teach me that because I have a 1080 Ti too. And 1080 Ti, when I was making some tests, I noticed exactly what you said. Like the Vulkan implementation, DirectX 12, when running on Linux doesn't work. And I was speaking to TKG and he gave me all the technical, because it's his stuff, right? All the technical approach about it. And literally like what they do on Windows, they go through software to render this, but on Linux they can't. And so the card is actually weak on this side. This is literally what it is. I'm just trying to put it in nice word because we had 1 hour conversation is so technical on this. But it told me all the different points in which the card was just weak. But from a user standpoint, it's so hard to understand because you're bro, on Windows it's working so good. Well, because there is a magic in the driver. And those driver magic cannot be repeated on Linux points. And that, as simple as that, right? So if you go with the Ampere, I think that's the generation after, the 2000 and plus, you will be kind of golden compared to the previous one.
Anything higher than 10 series, you could even go get the 16 series and you'd be fine. Yeah. You won't have ray tracing, but if you don't need ray tracing, who cares? It still works.
Exactly. Now there is this little conundrum with implementation of the open blob. So I don't want to get too technical on this. I fell into the trap in your distro because I didn't know how it works on Fedora, and I learned, and actually it's pretty well done. So are you the one? So is it a driver thing in Fedora, or are you the one implementing the way of setting up the kernel open or kernel close on Nobara 41? Simple question.
So our drivers are literally a copy of the Negativo 17 drivers. If anybody's ever heard of Negativo 17, if you're on Fedora, there's two different ways to install NVIDIA drivers.
Okay.
One is through the RPM Fusion repositories.
Yes.
The other is through Negativo 17.
So what is it? Is that a repo? Like what is Negativo
Yeah,
17?
So
okay.
Negativo 17 is just another guy. He's maintained his own version of the NVIDIA drivers on Fedora for a very long time, completely separate from RPM Fusion. But he also works for NVIDIA. So
got it.
We chose to follow his drivers since the very beginning. At first, we didn't know whether we were getting some better or worse or mixed differences in performance between the two. There's no difference.
Yep.
But we tested them for a long time, and we ended up just more comfortable with the Negativo 17 drivers. But in his drivers, he is the one who designed it to where you could literally just switch whichever one you want with the config.
Got it. Okay, because I was like, I never seen that before. And this is what I got totally catch. Because the way, so for the viewer out there, we want to get a little bit technical. Right now, you have a blob you can load via a kernel command, or correct me if I'm wrong, or like the kernel module. You load it at start, and you decide if you're gonna be on the open source like firmware or on the cloud source firmware. So that's the first choice. But if you don't want to load what they call like the GSP firmware, which is a firmware within the card, which is supposed to help like processing stuff within the NVIDIA card, you have to load the proprietary blob. If you load the open blob, you can't deactivate the GSP. This is the way it's built, right?
Right.
So during my stream, I was like, whoa, my card, okay, like it's depend on the hardware. I have some other bodies who have like 4080s, 4070, no problem. My card,
same here.
Yeah, same here. So you have no problem with the open, like the GSP loaded, everything works. Man, on my card, it's a mess. It's just a mess.
Huh.
It just freezes. So maybe it's because of I can't explain. I was not able to pinpoint it. So what I've done on Arch, the way it goes, there is the proprietary, like the open driver, which is loaded like that, and then if you want to do proprietary, you have to install it through the DKMS. This is how they differentiate themselves, right? So when you are on the DKMS, like a package, you're gonna load the proprietary blob, and then you deactivate the GSP. So guys, there was just a little like in between comma. But on your distro, which is awesome, but you need to know it, right? On your distro, it's different because you have like, can you like tell me the name of this gentleman again, Mr. 17?
Negativo 17.
Negativo 17. My bad. Really bad with name. So Negativo 70, he has this cool approach. Like you just have a config file. You can edit, and then you rebuild the initramfs, you rebuild the module, you reboot, and you switch. You have nothing else to do.
It's done. That's it.
You know? So I think it's pretty cool, dude. Like I have to say, first, it's the original way of doing it, and it still lets the user, like, the freedom to do it or not, which I greatly appreciate. Like this is cool. But again, like the wiki like came handy at this time because I was poor. I went to
One thing I want you to try is, you said when I was watching the beginning of your VOD, you were on the open driver and it was working fine except for that stutter that we were talking about, where you ended up getting rid of it after you switched kernels.
Yep.
So what I want you to try is go back to the open driver and try it with the new kernel to see if you get any stutters.
Yeah, I could do that.
Because I'm wondering if it was the kernel that was causing the stutter you were experiencing on Nobara rather than.
So the way I did it, actually, when I tried, I was already on the proprietary driver without the GSP. When I had the issue with the kernel. So it was not related to that, I believe. I can do it reverse way if you want, but in terms of like pinpointing.
No. So what I'm saying is, I saw when you were stuttering.
Yeah.
You were on the closed driver.
Yes.
And you were on the Nobara kernel.
Yes.
and then you switched to the
Oh,
Cachy
okay.
kernel.
So you want me to do the other way? Got it. Yep.
Yeah. So I just want you to. Well, you don't have to change the kernel now. Just switch back to the latest Nobara kernel because it's Cachy kernel now.
Yep.
Do that, but then change it back to the open driver and see if you get any stutters.
So yeah, my main operating system is Cachy, and I have the problem when I can try. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna give you the feedback for that. But just a heads up, like I have it on every distro. PCOS, like I pinpoint it to this. And first, you know how I can see it? Like if I drag around a window on my screen, it will be like it wouldn't be like smooth with the open driver. Yep. So I can see it right away. That's why I wanted to change it, because I was moving. So when you're on stream, you see it at 60 Hz, right? On my screen, it's like 140, like when I do the pass through. But normally I'm at 270. I'm telling you, like when you're at 270 and you start to like, you're like, okay. And end of story, right? So that's why like I pinpoint it this way. I need to make another like, you know, ticket on NVIDIA. I just have been lazy, because for me it's just easier to switch to the.
Yeah,
it's my fault. I should have done it.
Well, when you want to play games, you don't want to fuck with shit. Like,
yeah, exactly. And I still have the
alternative.
You probably
edit that out. My bad.
Yeah, no worries, man. Like it's all good.
I know YouTube rules, and I've been saying the good ones so far, but that, you know, every once in a while.
Yeah, but
in terms of language,
no, it's all good. No worries. No worries. It's we are not PG-13, okay? We can no worries. So yeah, so no, man, like I have to say, like this was a really good experience on Nobara. Like this, it just, you know, again, it was a mistake on my part when it comes to educate, right? Because yeah, some Linux user, including myself, or most of they need to do a little bit work of themselves. When you switch a distro, you have to, you know, stay objective.
Yeah, I think that's the bigger thing that a lot of Linux users forget, is that there's going to be a learning curve to anything that's done differently from the norm.
Yeah,
you know, even if you have my Nobara, I do things a little bit differently with the auto mount and whatnot. You know, if you move to Serpent OS, they're going to be doing things differently. They're going to have different stuff. You're going to have a different package manager to learn. You know, same thing if you've never used Gentoo before, you jump to Gentoo, you're always going to have stuff to learn. And a lot of Linux users get stuck in their ways, and they don't want to change, or they don't want to spend the time to learn to do things differently, or if they learn to do something differently, they don't necessarily like it. They want to go back to the old way. Yeah,
it's hard also to, you know, just be like, hey, that's the way they do it. You have to relearn. You don't know that. You know, just accept it. It's human, right?
Yeah. It's like, human. But hey, what if it's easier?
Yeah.
If it saves time, why not?
Exactly. But I liked it. I really liked it on this version. I was actually surprised, because you don't have to mess with the driver. So you take less risk. Yeah. There is one command to do. You reboot and boom. That's pretty cool, I have to say.
Yeah. One other thing that we just did with the new Cachy kernel too is we added auto regeneration for Kmods and DKMS and Dracut at the end of the kernel post install script, because by default Fedora doesn't do that.
I know.
On Arch, if you install a kernel, it's got hooks to where it'll auto regenerate DKMS modules.
Oh, they have it? Okay. Yeah, last time I installed it manually, they didn't have it. You had to.
I think it's an entry in the wiki. If you read the wiki for the DKMS section, it tells you how to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, we wanted that done automatically. We kept having users where they would run the update or get a new kernel, reboot, and they're like, "My screen's black again."
But you don't want them to do it, you know? Like,
right?
honestly,
exactly.
You don't want them to, because if they start to mess with that, it's the beginning of the end. Like, literally.
It's like, do you know how to boot with no mode set? No idea.
It's tough. It's tough. Like, you know, it's tough. But I think honestly, like, it's good. It's good stuff. I had a really good experience with the last one. And you know what I like too is we had exchange, right? You have been coming to my stream, when I was getting destroyed on Elden Ring, we had exchange with the community, you know. And you know, I like when I say like maintainer, but also like just member of the community. You know, they stay with us, like, right.
Yeah.
So I think this is cool.
I try to stay active. I've
You know?
been trying to be more active on the Nobara Reddit as of lately. I know I've really been really hard neglecting it for the last couple of years, so I'm trying to change that. I will say for sure, one of the things I pay attention to the most is YouTube videos when they come out. I search for Nobara videos on YouTube because I want to find out what people are saying. If they had a good experience, if they had a bad experience, if something is wrong or they hit some kind of bug, I want to know what it is so that I can fix it. Because I want people to have a good experience. It started as just a project for me and my dad, but I put it out there for other people in case they might like it. I don't want people to hate it, you know.
Obviously, yeah, and it's working. Like, it is definitely working, and you know, like, from my little experience, it's really good to see the project evolve, right? That's why I was asking you at the beginning, what direction are you gonna go? Because for all the users out there who are using Nobara, they're gonna be like, "Whoa, this is cool!" You know, like the updater, the wiki, like it's a new way to learn and also like have a seamless experience. And then you have like UMU and all these projects. So we didn't really talk about like ProtonGE. I don't think we need to talk about it, dude. Like, at this point,
everybody knows what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not very many people who don't know what it is, but it's, you know, I'll put it very shortly. It's a fork of Proton that has additional FFmpeg codecs enabled. It has a handful of extra patches. It has FSR patches so that you can use FSR without needing game scope. It's based off of wine staging. It's got wine staging rebased on top of Proton's wine.
Nice.
And Proton's wine is bleeding edge. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. Yeah, it's nothing too crazy. Just
it works.
What it is.
The way I would say this is like,
I think the biggest thing is that it allows a lot of people use it because it allows video playback to work better in a lot of games simply because of the codecs that Valve can't ship. And honestly, I'm not a company. I'm not selling anything. So, and I'm not like shipping that straight to people. It's up on a website. They download it. Like, they acknowledge that they're getting it. So
yeah, and you have all the patch notes. You have everything.
Yeah,
I remember discovering it because at the time, again, me, I like to do things old school. I was compiling it myself with the tool from TKG. And then I discovered yours because it was like 3 or 4 years ago. So obviously it was mainstream already, I would say. Not as big, I guess, as it is now. But I was like, man, like, this is cool, right? Because you don't have to compile it anymore, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like that. Well, back in the day,
yeah,
I remember when TKG was also like coming on the scene for stuff, and that was right when in my early days when I was doing builds just for like Warframe. That was like kind of what sparked everything. Is like I had a whole script and a custom build for Warframe, and I just started making custom wine builds. And then at some point, me and TKG ended up in the same Discord, and we've known each other ever since. Like,
nice.
He's actually part of our OWC group too. I have him in there in our channel there. Doesn't talk very much, but you know, he's there whenever I need to ask him something. Always a good guy. So
yep. So you're a Warframe player, gamer? I guess you did that for yourself, right?
I haven't played in a while, but I used to play like a lot. But before that, it was Destiny 2.
Oh, dude. Man,
and Destiny 1, then Destiny 2. Because I played Destiny all on console since the original release. Not since Alpha or Beta, but since Destiny 1 originally released.
So can you do me a LE5 about Destiny? Like, just because I never played this game. Can you do a LE5 for me?
What do you mean?
Like, 85 is like, can you explain me, like, I'm 5, what it's a game is all about? I never played this game.
I think the easiest way to describe it is it's literally like Warframe, but first person and slower. Different graphics. You're going down into different zones, different instanced zones, and killing shit, doing quests, and turning it in for a profit, rinse, repeat.
Got it. Okay.
It's like a first person. It's a mix between a first person shooter and an MMO.
Got it. Okay. Man.
It's pretty fun. The PvP was really fun when I played it, but then it got not so fun afterwards. And then Destiny 2 was all right, and then I don't know. I have a lot of negative things that I can say about it at this point, especially with them not wanting it on the Steam Deck and being adamantly against Linux. At that point, dude, I had invested so much time and money into that franchise, and I stopped. I cold stopped. I was like, dude, I went to conventions. That's where my EGGY name came from. It wasn't from Linux stuff. I used to go to Destiny conventions in Florida every year, and it got to the point where I was just using Linux on a daily basis, and they didn't want to support it. And then when it came to a point where we did have it running, it was running. I could totally get in game. It was just a small problem with their anti-cheat, but they didn't want to support it. So I was like, all right, you don't want to support it, I'm not going to support you. End of it. Plenty of other stuff that I can play.
So what are you playing now?
Right now, Path of Exile, obviously. Path of Exile 2 has been amazing.
Yeah.
I've been going slow with it, real slow, just whenever I have time. I just finished Act 1. I'm on the first boss of Act 2. I also have played quite a bit of Diablo 4. I like Diablo 4 a lot. Both of the games are great. Last Epoch is another one that I played like a shit ton of.
Okay,
Last Epoch is amazing for any. I love Last Epoch. It's one of those that's under the radar, but I would recommend anybody that likes ARPGs check it out.
It is solid. Like I will put Last Epoch maybe not at the level of a Grim Dawn, but like this is the type of game where you just like about it, but until you tried it, you kind of realize what type of game it is. Right.
Right.
It's exactly like Grim Dawn. Yeah. Grim Dawn, it was that $3 like last winter, like winter, like Steam sales, and I totally like passed, I totally missed it, and then I start to play on the Steam Deck. I was like, whoa, this is serious. And the fact it's offline, and the fact like it's a good game. And Last Epoch, I've been like supporting them like about the before the release and stuff. Before like season 0, and like when he was in
that's how I was with Last Epoch as well. Like I have all the early access stuff for like a long time. I guess you got the little backpack too that they did.
All the little stuff. All the little. It's a good game too. So okay. So you are now you're more into like the ARPG type of game now.
I am. I will say I do play WoW here and there. I haven't stuck with it for long periods. I'll play it for maybe like a month or so on and off. But my big game that I played for a really long time is Final Fantasy 14.
Okay.
I play a lot of Final Fantasy 14. I love that game. I've got all of the collector's editions. I've got all of the Encyclopedia Eorzeas. I've got all of the Maestro statues.
Okay.
I've got like a shrine over here for all of the Final Fantasy 14 stuff that I
okay.
I've been a fan of that game since forever. So that's my big one. I would say in that order is probably Final Fantasy 14, and then your ARPGs in that order.
That's cool, man. I think that's nice. Like I'm pretty sure a lot of you are gonna have like some game in common with you. Like obviously Path of Exile 2 is just insane. Like it's a phenomenon at this point.
Yeah.
The first one, I played the first one when it was released, like during just after Diablo 3. And after having living in a lag, that was my experience of Path of Exile Alpha. Like you will be literally lagging on the screen. I was like, no, I'm gonna stick on Diablo 3 at the time. But dude, you played during this period?
I've been playing Path of Exiles for ages, since they released, since they ever first came out.
Okay.
I nagged them on Twitter for the longest time to just as soon as when Vulkan first came out.
Yeah.
I nagged them forever to put a Vulkan renderer in there, and they finally did it. And I literally was just like, "Oh my god, I think I'm gonna shit my pants. This is amazing." Because I could play it on Linux smoothly with no stutters, nothing.
Yeah.
Like I just native Vulkan ran perfectly. I was like, "Oh, this is awesome." So I'm glad that they did that in the new one too. But
you need improvement. It needs
Yeah,
improvement.
it needs a little bit of work on the
Yeah.
Path of Exile 2 Vulkan implementation. It has some frame dips on the AMD side, and it doesn't work at all on the Nvidia side. So
Yeah.
yeah, that needs to be sorted out.
They will do it. I believe in them. I had an issue
Yep.
with their support. You know, they're based in New Zealand. I didn't know.
Oh.
Yeah, they're in New Zealand. So I sent them, like, it was really late, and I sent an email. I was like, for the Twitch drop or whatever, I paid to have like the special, like Chimera or whatever. And I didn't receive it. I was like, bro, like, I don't have it. So I sent an email. I was like, hey, can you do something about it? And like 10 minutes after, a dude answered me. It was like 2 a.m. here. I was like, what? So they're based in New Zealand, and the guy answered me like that. And we had like exchange. I was like, man, like the support and like the feedback,
That's awesome.
it is just crazy. You can tell like those guys are passionate. You can tell like they push like the philosophy of their like vision to all the employee. It was insane. The guy that was my buddy after all those exchanges was like,
That's awesome.
I couldn't believe it. So I was like, whoa, did you put it on the right account? He was like, yeah, go enjoy it. I launched the game. It was on my account. I was like, okay, man, you're the man. Thank you very much. It was awesome, dude. Like, I have a big respect, for this type of company. And the game itself is... I'm like you. I couldn't go past, I think, Act 3 because I don't have the time to play. But the small amount of time I played was like...
So one of the things that was hard for me to get into was the different pace. The fight, the animation fighting pace is a little bit slower. It's more of the it's more of the like it's like an ARPG with Elden Ring. It's kind of weird, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, it does.
Compared to the first one. The first one was you could get up and going pretty quickly and just spam skills and go. This one, I'm getting there. I'm getting into some really cool combos and being able to put together some really cool stuff. I haven't looked up any guides. I don't like going off of whatever's on the internet. I just roll with what I like.
Yeah.
And I've been having a lot of fun with it, but man, it was hard for me to adjust to the change of pace in terms of how the skills work. And I'm playing Barbarian right now.
Okay. Oh yeah. So you choose the hard one too. You choose the hard one, dude.
Yeah. I always play Barb. Even on D4, like I always play the meatheads. And the reason is because I used to play the squishies and I got tired of dying all the time. So I said I'm going to play the meatheads and I'm just going to crank up. First, I'm going to crank up my defense and my shield, and then I'll go for damage. So it takes me a lot longer to get to where I want to be. But boy, once I hit that point where I'm doing a good amount of damage,
satisfaction.
I just cruise through everything, man. It's like nothing can touch me. I'm just destroying everything.
That's good, dude. That's good. That's a good point you made there. Like, you don't want to watch, I'm gonna say you don't want to watch YouTuber, or me being a YouTuber, hello. But like, you don't want to watch someone.
Watch for enjoyment. Don't watch to try and figure out their build or whatever they are.
You cheat the game and you don't have fun anymore.
Yeah.
If
you see something that they're doing that looks cool, it's like, okay, that's cool. Let me try and get that skill and see what I can do with it. Don't like go try and copy their build like skill point for skill point. You're not gonna have any fun, and then you're gonna want to change stuff, and then you're gonna look at it and you're gonna be like, oh, I don't like the way that I changed this, and you're gonna judge it 50 million times. I've been there. I've been through all of that. Don't do it.
That's right. I think we covered everything. What time is it? Are we in time?
I think so. It's
perfect.
noon here. Yeah,
I think we are right on time. Like, is there something you would like to add? Like, is there something you would like to talk about? It like we didn't cover. Honestly, like some things that you have in your head that sometime you want to say, I don't know, whatever.
Honestly, like the biggest thing is vendors vendors and new users who are both coming in with their first experience being that of the Steam Deck. If you're a vendor or somebody that works for a vendor that's maybe considering contributing to the Steam Deck or making apps for the Steam Deck, for example, like the new news of NVIDIA's streaming GeForce Now coming to the Steam Deck. That's awesome. It's great for both sides because you're getting a whole new community that's going to be able to use your product. At the same time, it trickles down in other distributions. Whatever is able to be used on the Steam Deck, 90% of the time is probably going to be able to trickle down to other distributions because of open source software and how that works. They're going to figure out one way or another. Oh, we can use it on Steam Deck. We could probably also use it on here. I would say if anybody's out there looking on that point or from that aspect, from vendor aspect, please consider it. Linux is great. It's fantastic. I'm tired of trying to use Windows for certain things that I need to or want to do or play. I haven't touched Windows in a really long time, unless I absolutely have to. And, you know, I get it. Each person has their own preferences, but my preference is Linux. It'd be really nice to have a bigger community and better vendor support on Linux.
Yeah,
that's about it.
Man, you reach a good point. I think we can take a little bit of time on that, man, because I like, have so many things to say. I have one of these. I'm gonna cite a brand, Avermedia. Okay, I have one of these capture cards. Avermedia.
Actually, I know all about Evermeter capture cards too.
Listen,
I know they never work on Linux.
Listen, dude, I got two of them. I got two of them because when I was streaming, I needed one for my GLSLR and one for my gameplay. Okay, and I get this Avermedia card, which I believe are like one of the best, like top notch. Okay, if I plug them,
I mean, their USB cards. I mean, their USB stuff it's up there with the best in terms of other USB devices, but it's one of those things where it's real hit or miss in terms of if you get any kind of capture card that's a PCIe card.
Yeah, and those are
so yeah.
And man, like I agree with you. And you know, from a pure marketing standpoint, I think for them and for the vendor, I hope they heard your call. I'm gonna push mine now. I know they have all the data to, you know, statuate if launching a product on a platform or another will be like a good choice financially. I'm going to word it this way. Okay. I do believe that today, not starting to look in the Linux world is a mistake from a financial standpoint, because when you see the growth of the Steam Deck in popularity, when you start to see other vendor distributor being like in a position where they are willing to, in between commas, sacrifice Windows to install SteamOS as a default on some of the hardware, I think those vendors, and it's just my fault, they need to start to really think about the opportunity, financial opportunity when it comes to Linux. Because, you know, like those guys are here to make profit, and I get it, right? Like at the end of the day, everybody is here to make profit. Nobody is giving me food every day, right? Like I have to go work for it, and I get it. But here, I think like there is a big change in trends, and it will be a mistake from their standpoint to avoid it, right? You know, I was watching this video of James Lee. Have you heard about this gentleman? I didn't know this guy. Listen, like he's a content creator on YouTube. He had like 900,000 sub. He's creating like animation, right? And his YouTube channel is all about animation. He made a video last week, which was
I think I saw that on Reddit where he switched over to Linux.
Yeah, like he was like, I'm done with Adobe, but then he said the underlying part of Adobe was like, I wanted to try Linux, right? And so he kind of like closed the door toward Adobe, but by doing that, he was like, you know what? Now I'm there. I'm going to close the door to Microsoft, right? Yeah. And again, like I'm not judging or whatever. My point is more like now you have people who are like professionally involved, who are like living out of their content creation gig, which are like talented, who kind of like see the opportunity of Linux. They're going to be the one leading the pace for all the different people who are actually like following those talentless gentlemen. And you go through this argumentation in the video. I don't know if you saw the video, man. Like this is so well done. I'm kind of like envious. Like my edits, they suck. But when I look at him, I was like, bro, you can tell like every detail, every color, every like, it's wonderful. I'm not even kidding. That's and even awesome. Like the discussion behind it is making like, he put Linux on a podium, on a pedestal, you know? It's like, wow. And every Linux user out there, every user will find themselves in this type of video. And I believe in the future, a lot of people are going to go this way. And I also believe those guys are going to need hardware. So those vendors, you know, someone is going to do it. They're going to be the first to market. You better be there. That's would be my take.
Okay, so another little tiny quick minor thing.
Yeah, no worries, man. Let's go.
You know, with the vendor thing, they might look at the Linux market share, but they don't consider the type of people that are in that market share.
Yeah.
You have you might think it's a small market share, but that's a small market share of nothing but tech enthusiasts. And tech enthusiasts really like their tech, especially if their tech is Linux compatible.
Yeah.
You're going to make money there, I'm telling you.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's such a good point, man. That's such a good point. Like if someone was doing a solid like card with a capture card with a Linux support and a solid one, like maybe not Avermedia type of card, but just, like solid, it will be a bank. Because all those USB
dude, look at Magewell.
Yeah, exactly. Like look at their pricing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Magewell is the only one in the game with PCIe cards, and guess what? They're able to sell their shit for bucket loads of money because they're the only ones doing it on Linux.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the other competitor you have is like Blackmagic themselves have one card.
Yeah.
And neither of them do VRR right now, anyway. There's a bunch of USB devices that do VRR, but the problem with those devices is right now they only really are able to process using MJPEG for the compressed output. You can't get raw output from it. So we need a PCIe card. And I've been saying this for years. What we need is a DVI capture card.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Or not DVI, DisplayPort, my bad.
DisplayPort, yeah. So those DisplayPort, like I was reading article, like they're coming through the pipe, but apparently they're too expensive. And now with like the HDMI 2.1, 2.2, like the new, like have you seen those cable at CES? Like I think it was 80 gigabytes for the HDMI 2.2. I think it was something like that. It's insane, dude. So we're gonna get there, I think, through HDMI. But I agree, like we had this big gap, right?
We need DisplayPort because HDMI is a proprietary.
Oh yeah, okay. You see this way. That's a good point.
Yeah, that's the whole reason. Why do you think AMD cards still don't have HDMI 2.1?
Oh man, I didn't think about this one. That's a good point. Yeah, you're right, my man.
Yeah,
you're right. So yeah, I think that's a good way to conclude. Hope those vendors are gonna jump in. I do believe. Listen, I do believe they're gonna have to. When I see the Legion go, when I see where it's going, they're gonna get it, dude. It's all good for us user. It's gonna be awesome. Everybody in Linux enjoying the freedom, dude. GloriousEggroll. I think, can I call you EGGY now?
Yeah, that's fine. Everybody calls me EGGY. It's fine, man.
EGGY, thank you very much for your time. Okay, I know you had a rough night, partly because of me. I apologize for that.
It had good stuff that came out of it, so it's all good.
Yeah. Okay, dude, thank you very much for the interview. Guys, if you have any question, just put them in the comment below. Don't forget to subscribe. That's what I do at the end of the video, to remind everyone. You know where to find GloriousEggroll. You know where to find all this project. Dude, thank you very much. Okay, appreciate it.
Man. Thanks for having me.
Have a great rest of your day. And as always, bisous, bisous. Ciao, ciao.